Hi, I'm Wangeline. Some time ago I discovered a really fun and interesting and quite easy way to make these super cool and wonky percussion loops, and I also uploaded a little video of that onto Twitter and asked if you would like to see a sound design tutorial for that. Lots of you said you want me to explain this little chaos, so, yeah, let's make some sounds. First off, I generated this little basic percussion rhythm loop thingy. It's actually super simple to make something like this. Usually I take a long, noisy sound and use volume automation to carve out these short peaks in there. It sounds somewhat like this. Alternatively, you can arrange already percussive sounding samples in a rhythmic pattern and apply the same volume automation onto that to get loops like this. And now here's the really fun part. This is where we get to play around with super wonky processing and turn this bland loop into a big lovely mess. For this I simply slap FL Studio's Fruity Delay 3 onto our sound, but most delays should do the trick as well, so don't worry, this technique isn't just limited to FL Studio or anything like that. After the delay I keep a little audio recorder running. In my case it's FL's Edison, just to record all the stuff, you know, that I save the sounds. Now back in the delay I turn off any time snapping, so we've got super fine and precise control over the delay time. And I just turn all the funny knobs while looping the raw percussion sounds we've made earlier. By switching the delay model to ping pong, the sounds will bounce back and forth between the left and right ear if we turn the delay pan one way or another. This is super duper important if you want the final thing to be wide and spacious. At this point I mainly play around with the delay time, delay level and pitch preservation knobs and settings really quickly while the sample still plays in the background. It's also possible to get even more wonkiness out of the delay effect if you also move around other settings, but I haven't found that to be as impactful to the sound, and the other knobs kind of already do exactly what I'm trying to achieve, so I just don't bother with those.
Up here.
And that's how I made that percussion loop I showed you at the very start of this video. That being said, I do have some other great examples and loops I made using this exact same technique that I want to show to you. Okay, so the raw recording for this one is going to sound unbelievably awful, mostly because it was never intended to be heard by anyone in the first place. One day I was just walking around my room when I had a little idea for a drum rhythm in my head. I was a few minutes away from doing some video gaming with my girlfriend and I didn't want to let the rhythm idea fall into the brain forget void, where I definitely could never retrieve it back from. So I just recorded myself badly mouthing the drums into my microphone, just as a little note so I won't forget any of it later when I actually want to do something with it. But then I listened to it a few more times and noticed that some of the drummy noises actually sound kinda neat. And I super duper wanted to at least try to process all this into a weird drum loop. First off, I used the wave shaper to drastically lower every point in the wave under a certain threshold. This kind of works like an instant audio gate, but also adds all these crispy artifacts that I like a lot. I use this exact technique quite often on all kinds of sounds. You can alter how extreme the signal gets distorted by adjusting the curve and position of this threshold point. Next up we've got vocodics in the effects chain, which I set up with a few white bands and super fast settings to turn the recording into something less mouthy sounding. Then a little boost in the low end to make those kicks a little more impactful. And to make the drums sound extra punchy and thick, I did Native Instruments Supercharger, which is the free tube compressor that does an excellent job on this kind of stuff. Here's how it sounds now. After all this I exported the processed recording, chopped it up into individual drum hits and manually processed them a little bit more in Audacity so all the transients are equally loud and punchy. I also placed a fade out at the end of each drum hit so the drum tails sound less messy. Then I just arranged all the individual drum hits into a nice little pattern again, and that sounds like this. And here I once again used the funny little delay technique this video is actually about to turn the drum loop into something super crazy sounding. And since I'm a woman of culture and prefer my drums extra glitchy and crunchy, I also added some simple stutter onto this chaos. Hell yeah! And this is how it sounds together with some other dark, heavy drums and instruments I designed for this track. There's this other project I'm making together with Patricia Taxon where I also use the same delay technique to mess up a bunch of instruments. The first one I processed with a funny delay is this repetitive plucky synth. Which turned into this. And the second thing I processed is this layer of noisy shakers and shuffly sounds. And that turned into this. There's one more thing I want to show you. It's this little slushy loop I made for 2 of the Realm of the Mad God soundtracks. The Spider-Dan and Crawling Depths themes, to be precise. This also started out as a big glob of noise that I carved some rhythm into. The noise is just a big stack of meaty, wet, bloody noises that are laid on top of each other and made full and wide using pretty simple granular synthesis, similar to what I showed in this old video of mine. And then of course the same wonky delay processing I already showed you like a billion times in this video, and this is the result. Here's the boring loop without any funky delays. And then later over here, all that good stuff kicks in. Nice. At this point I'd like to mention that you can find many of these juicy processed sounds in my Patreon sample pack. Everyone who pledges $5 or more on my Patreon gets access to these samples and so many more fun sounds I've designed throughout the years. And of course I'd like to thank every single one of my lovely Patreon supporters for keeping this channel alive and making all of this possible. So, huge thanks to Tobbun, letl, Zach LM, Capnbubs, Anechoic, ThatsMyJam, Christy Kamori, Katana, Sofia Figueroa, FoxyVeeVee, Grey Figment, Rachael Rae Mills, Jayne the Human, Catherine, Teddy Edwards, Silver, Declan, Sora, NAWN, WinDEU, Benjamin Burns, Mikkel Ormstrup, DivetotheHeart, Robinsong, alechs, Jmanning, heteraabd, Misty Burgess, Flowergothic, Ram, Felshman, Mad MML Lucas, Key, Tenby, and Day. Thanks to all of you for supporting me, thanks to all of you for watching this video this far, and I'll see you next time when I jump off a desk onto my chair and make the funny little noises. Cool. Okay, bye.